Okay, so I just wanted to let you know the directions for part two. Right, this is the same setup as every other quiz we've taken, where the first part should look very similar to, if not exactly the same as, your vocabulary assignment. And then the second part is more content related questions. We're going to drag and drop that yellow arrow. Right, so there's a yellow arrow, you will click it and drag it so that it's pointing at the answer that you think is correct. Right, I want to give you a quick review of what we learned before you get started. So, yes, oh no, here we go. Okay, so there are a few big events that happened in Boston during this time, right? One of which was the Boston Massacre, right? This happened when tensions were already high. So that means that the colonists and the British soldiers and the British in general were already not getting along. They were already really kind of felt like enemies to each other. And then in the midst of that, the Boston Massacre happens. Okay? What happened during the Boston Massacre is there was kind of a bit of a argument and a fight between some colonists and British soldiers, and the British soldiers fired their weapons into the crowd of colonists, killing 5 people. Okay? So that shooting into the crowd and 5 people dying is what is called the Boston Massacre. Okay? After the Boston Massacre and eventually the Boston Tea Party, the English are like, listen, we are done with your protesting and your retaliation. And they passed what is called the Intolerable Acts. Okay? One of the Intolerable Acts was the Quartering Act. Okay? The Quartering Act, when they say quarters, they mean quarters as in a house, right? Sometimes people call, you know, houses or where people sleep, they're sleeping quarters, right? So they mean your home. So the Quartering Act would force colonists to let those British soldiers sleep in their houses, right? They had to house them. Another thing that we went over is, all of these, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, the boycotting, all of these things happened because the English kept raising taxes on the colonists that they were not giving to the people in England. And the colonists were very angry about it. So the colonists ended up with a phrase that's very famous that says, no taxation without representation. Okay, when they say that, what they mean is that they don't think that the British should be allowed to put taxes on their goods, right? To tax them without letting them have a say or be represented in English Parliament, right? So if you think about it in ways about how we do things now, it's kind of like how people want to vote to make sure their voice is heard, right? That's what they mean. They want to be able to like have kind of a vote and a voice in Parliament who is taxing them, and they don't have that voice, right? So they think it is unfair to be taxed without a voice, so no taxation without representation. Another way that the colonists protested all of these taxes is by boycotting. Okay? This was a successful protest that they did, right? So, what boycotting is, it's like protesting with your wallet. So, what that means is that people purposefully will refuse to buy something if they don't believe in, the company or the product or something like that. In this case, they were boycotting or refusing to buy tea or other British goods because they didn't want to pay the taxes to the British. They wanted to show the British that, hey, it's not fair for you to tax us, so we just won't even buy your goods anymore so that you can't get the money. Okay, that is it. So I know I kind of jumped around there, but the general idea is that the British started taxing the colonists, Okay? The colonists were not happy about this. In order to protest those taxes, what the colonists did was, oh, I got one on my face by accident. What the colonists did was they protested. How they protested was by boycotting British goods or not buying British goods. Okay? And another famous protest was the Boston Tea Party, where they protested by actually dumping a bunch of tea into the harbor. Okay? Because of these tensions and protests, there were some bad things that kind of came out of that as well. One of which was the Boston Massacre, when there was kind of a bit of a argument between colonists and British soldiers that resulted in the British soldiers firing into a crowd and killing 5 people. Okay, another bad result was after the Boston Tea Party, the English decided that the colonists deserved to be punished for trying to dump all of that tea or successfully dumping all of that tea in the harbor. So they passed the Intolerable Acts, right? And the Intolerable Acts included the Quartering Act, okay, which meant that they had to let those British soldiers that they had such high tensions with and did not get along with sleep in their houses. Okay. Mm-hmm.